So I guess this is just sort of the natural ending point, or near ending point for these reviews, huh? Every single episode using one-off series, on either end, kind of. It's going to be a bonus segment at the end, I'll explain when we get there. Let's take a look at every single death battle where neither series involved has been used more than once. A lineup of reviews that's quite long, and I completely forgot about Bomberman VS Dig Dug while putting it together. Ironic as the first episode of the lineup is—
You'd think a jackhammer would sound like this.
Oh, hey! I can do that too!
But Dig Dug sounds like this.
Done, huh? Thanks for the tip.
No wonder this guy's a psycho.
This sure is an episode. It's not one I particularly think is offensive or anything, but it comes off as feeling just like Season 1 filler to me. It's not like going around killing my pet goldfish, but it's also not particularly feeding them when I forget to either. The analysis is okay. I like them starting with a reference to the Bomberman reboot, and I like Boomstick's enjoyment of Bomberman's weaponry and how nasty he thinks Dig Dug is. The fight is fine. Can't say I'm a particular fan of Bomberman only getting hits in with the Rui, as that means the Rui did better than Bomberman himself, but I mean, I guess that's why it's a power-up, huh? Bomberman finding these random power-ups after one explosion is beyond stupid, and I honestly would have just rather he had them available from the get-go like the Rui. The two bouncing a bomb between one another is kind of fun though, as is Bomberman's solution of just throwing another bomb. Then of course Bomberman just finds a super bomb, blows some stuff, and then dies. Somehow the super bomb only explodes the stuff above it, as the ground underneath it remains completely untouched. Dig Dug then inflates robot and Bomberman dies. I like your concept, not really your execution. The scream is funny though. I don't know what to say, man. This episode's got nothing to me. I don't know, like a 5? A 6? Probably a 5? I have so little to say, I don't know.
Hey, I'm Master Chief, and this shirt's the best thing I've ever worn!
This is the episode I know a lot of people genuinely don't like and really want a remake of. Half of them because they think it'd be genuinely cool to see this redone in 3D, which it would be, and half of them because they think Doomguy was robbed and should come back to slaughter Master Chief, which— if that's your reason, fuck off. The rest of you can stay and hope for the cool 3D fight. Anyway, what do I think of the original? The classic, the numero uno? It's alright. Analysis is pretty fun. It does the checklist format, but Boomstick's little comments about every little thing add a bit of comedy and fun that I enjoy. The fight honestly isn't as bad as a lot of people make it out to be. Sure, it's not something stunning like I can imagine it being nowadays, but it really isn't that bad. The general gunfight is pretty fun and has some genuinely cool moments. Master Chief jumping out of an explosion and dodging missiles is cool, then him catching and throwing one back is also cool. Weaponizing Master Chief's vehicle flipping is pretty nice. Master Chief's invisibility being seen through forcing him to block chain gun rounds is awesome. I also like the fact that Doomguy fights the way he's generally seen as fighting. He just sort of walks forward gunning down everything with all of his weapons. While Chief is a bit smarter. He takes cover, he needs to swap out his weapons, then he visibly drops them to the ground. He tries to be a bit more tactical. Overall, there's not much wrong for a Season 1 animation. Except the death. The explosion itself and Doomguy's scream are funny and good, but Chief very explicitly gets hit by the BFG, but then somehow puts a bubble shield while being hit, yet also threw out a plasma grenade in that time? Even though they said people and vehicles can go through the shields but nothing else can. This isn't even consistent in the episode. Overall, it's not a particularly bad episode. I'd say it's a low 7. Of course, this is for Season 1 standards, but I think this episode gets a bad rep for the whole Master Chief winning thing. And I know there are a lot of people who don't like the episode just because Chief won, which has some real Ben vs. Hal energy to me. But the episode is fine. I don't think it needs a remaster, but I wouldn't complain if it got one.
Strider Hiru.
Holy shit, Wiz pronounces it as Strider Hiru. Fucking kill me! I quite like this episode, in spite of that. The analysis is half good. Ryu's is fun, having some jokes I enjoyed, fun jabs of the series. Strider's is okay. Doesn't hit the highs, doesn't really have lows, it's just, The animation though. This is somehow barely 2 minutes long, and it's fucking phenomenal. This battle is pure speed and exhilaration. It's just so fucking good, man. Holy shit, can you hear that? What bastard is doing that? It's just so fucking good, man. It's absurdly fast, it's incredibly well paced, it consists of a ton of general actions between their two swords, as well as them just bowling through each other's weapons. Strider goes through all of Ryu's weapons. He slices apart the scythe, chain, and ninja stars, he dodges and destroys the bow and arrow, he kills the shadow clone, and Ryu takes down all of Strider's drones, literally in a badass sequence where he just mows them all down. Combined with memorable moments like Ryu's Inazuma drop, the two fighting as they ascend this area, and the brief clash as they're climbing up to an even higher area, this is just a phenomenal animation, and nobody feels totally in control. Whoever's in charge of the battle changes on a whim as the fight goes on. One moment Strider could be slicing apart a scythe and mowing through Ryu's chain sickle, the next he's blocking two Ryus only to get overwhelmed and forced to use his drones, only for those drones to get destroyed and for him to dodge and destroys Ryu's following bow and arrow barrage, then miss his next attack when Ryu teleports and blasts him from behind, forcing Strider to have to climb up and fight Ryu while doing so, and then get an exploding out and healing himself. It's just a mile a minute and matches the speedy pace I'd expect of a battle between two badass video game ninjas with extensive arsenals, with the only equipment the two have that managed to come out completely unscathed during the actual battle being their main swords. And then there's the final clash. A beautiful, absolutely S-tier one-stroke duel with fantastic build-up and pacing that is phenomenal and references the intro Ninja Gaiden so well. With the icing on the cake being that is just the opening for the actual kill blow, where Strider uses a Ragnarok and plows Ryu through the entire fucking building they just spend the middle portion of the animation climbing up. Holy hell, that's great. I love this animation so much. The only thing that brings this episode down is, well, Strider's analysis is just kinda boring, and the conclusion isn't up to much, with it having the hilarious bit of, wow, Ryu's sword can cut through people like butter, as if that's not what swords are kinda designed to do. This is a really, really high 7. If Strider's analysis is up to snuff, it might be one of my favorite Sprite episodes. As it is though, it remains a shining example of how a short animation can still feel like it used a lot of a character's potential.
What can go wrong for you will creep Murphy's Law.
Chill out, dickwad. Your emotions are wrecking your flow.
Terminator vs Robocop. The analysis is really solid. I quite enjoyed the clips they used throughout. Flow and pacing was nice. I liked how Boomsy took the lead with discussing the guns used by the two. The jabs of their films was all pretty fun and didn't feel malicious, and this episode made us have the best ending.
Motherfucker is back at it again, son of a bitch!
And this episode made us have the best ending clips they've ever chosen. Terminator's iconic "I'll be back" line followed by ramming his car into the guy encapsulates the role of the Terminator. In Robocop having an early clip where someone says he's a machine, as well as a focus at the start of this analysis on his conflict between man and machine, gets wrapped up with an ending clip that's just the perfect scene. This is a very fun analysis. The fight, meanwhile, shows its age harder than my former opinion on Aang vs Edward. The start of this animation involves an N64 looking bridge with a bunch of lights, then a close-up shot of the road showing us that these lights are nowhere near the cars and they're just floating vaguely above them. The whole fight just looks rough as hell, which really means it's impressive how much I like it. The start of the fight is pretty damn funny. It lets us picture in our head what's happening as a naked Terminator travels back in time and shows up at a gun shop and immediately kills the guy and blows up the building while taking the guns. It's a great setup that makes it feel not contrived that the Terminator has all these weapons on hand and fits the character. But then Robocop just shows up to arrest him. Perfect. Love how all these cars at one point are here and then they just, vanish. Then Robocop comes out and you really see the age. Robocop's face always looks kind of unnerving, while his body can sometimes look too polygony or too shiny. But while that's weird, I love getting point of view shots where we get to see their heads up displays looking at each other, identifying weapons, weaknesses, and materials. Even if Robocop's brain being listed as a human heart is weird, and the analysis never bring up that Murphy still has a physical human heart. I also like that the heads up displays focus on different things. Terminator focuses on the armor Robocop has, then identifying weak spots so we can have a better idea how to kill him, while Robocop starts with information that'd be important to identify a suspect and arresting him, with necessary information for his line of work such as name and address, while looking at his weapons and then focusing on a fuel source that could be dangerous to civilians. This is really nice and I love this sequence. Also, cool sunglasses. The fight then starts and Terminator goes on the offensive immediately. Robocop just unflinchingly stands against his assault and fires back, and Terminator actually reacts. It's a good way to show that Robocop's better armored and has a more powerful handgun. Of course, then Terminator properly adjusts his systems, and now the two get a great bit where they walk up to each other just unflinching towards the gunfire. The first actual melee clash is really cool, with actual gun kata in a death battle. Nice, I love it. We don't get that often. Terminator using his shotgun and Robocop using his Auto 9 for hand-to-hand combat, until Robocop regains his bearing and shoots Terminator's gun out of his hands. Terminator just goes up close, lays him out, and of course Terminator is shown as a lot more fluid in his movements compared to the ironically more robotic and stiff Murphy. Terminator gets to use one of his more iconic lines, which admittedly feels a bit weird for him to say, seeing as this is a freshly sent Terminator that wouldn't have had time to adapt these phrases and what we see, but this is sort of a concession you kind of have to make with a Terminator. Either Terminator doesn't get to say his iconic lines, or you start having questions, and now Terminator has been around long enough to develop those, but never come across Robocop, which is probably just as nonsensical. I'll let that slide. Robocop somehow has his jetpack now, and he looks distractingly shiny, not cool. His line is cool though. And we get a cool chase sequence as Terminator runs from the Cobra assault cannon. Terminator takes cover and Robocop loses him, the ground has a seizure, and then Terminator is just climbing up the side of a skyscraper. Somehow in this short time he's gotten all the way up here, and he's not even damaging the side of the building as he does it. I get the idea that he's probably brute forcing his way up, but how is he doing that on glass? The glass would not be a solid way to do that like concrete. It's glass. It gives us Terminator putting Robocop down with a minigun though, that's cool, and we get to have Robocop using his advanced targeting to fire a bullet that jams the minigun, while Terminator uses his advanced targeting to aim a grenade that takes Robocop down to earth as he says. I like we even get to see the two targeting systems there for both. Robocop then pulls his gun arm literally out of his ass and flamethrowers Arnie. The two look oddly unrendered in this bit, but the dialogue is great, and I like how Robocop blasting Terminator into a tanker and blowing it up and take off Terminator's skin is natural. Even Robocop suddenly being on the edge of the building and the janky way Terminator gets hit by the missile are fucking hilarious. We then get a genuinely intimidating bit of the unskinned Terminator getting up, pulling out the plasma rifle, and fucking Robocop up something fierce. Robocop with one inactive arm flips a car which takes out one of Terminator's arms and his plasma rifle. We then get a genuinely great moment where Terminator unflinchingly tears off its own arm just to advance and fire on Robocop repeatedly while its theme plays and it approaches. Robocop's power lowering and his heads-up display itself taking damage is just really good. Though Terminator not realizing he's out of rounds is kinda dumb. Even if Robocop using a level 10 ordnance and his ram bolts to not get sent flying is a cool bit. Even if the ordnance came out the wrong leg, and what is a surprisingly great character moment for the Terminator happens where even in this state, he continues fighting and trying to go, leaving Robocop with ruptured fuel cells to deal with. Robocop then brilliantly uses this jetpack that was always here, what are you talking about, to send him flying so they rupture in the sky. Because if we know anything, it's that hydrogen explosions are really small. Overall, I love this fight, even though it is beyond heavily flawed. A lot of shots look terrible, the models are crappy half the time, not everything looks fully rendered, it's aged even worse than Godzilla vs. Gamera and Link vs. Cloud 1, and I love it. The conclusion is good too. Probably my favorite thing being the fact that the argument in Robocop's favor at the end is humanity as opposed to Terminator's lack of it. It's hard to explain, but this feels like the most naturally thematic reason for Robocop to win. It really captures the most interesting aspect of the matchup. Terminator's not human, but he tries to be, because his whole point is infiltrating humans. While Robocop, in serving humans, is more robotic despite being human. It's that interesting contrast and dynamic that I fucking love, and it makes this matchup so cool. And I'm glad that it became part of the reasoning for Robocop's win. I really, really want to give this episode just a big banger score, but I know I can't. I don't have any deep emotional attachment to it like I do the similarly for Godzilla vs. Gamera, but I still recognize its quality. When it's good, it's unironically a banger. When it's bad, it's just fucking hilarious. Honestly, I'm giving this an 8. I know that's kind of weird given it's such a deeply flawed episode, but I just can't help but be charmed by it. It's in that realm where every time it's bad, it's good for the wrong reason, which makes it fun to watch. At any point, it's either Iron Man or it's Sharknado 2. There is no in between. Except for the jetpack materializing into existence over here. That's just not okay.
Any more weapons you want to throw at me?
Several, actually.
This might be a hot take, I don't know. But what I'm about to say will either get you jumping out of your seat cheering that someone finally said it like a madman, booing me for my apparently objectively wrong opinion, or just being completely neutral overall. For those are indeed the three reactions that will vaguely happen. Ratchet and Clank vs. Jak and Daxter is probably one of the most underrated episodes of Death Battle of all time, and allow me to explain why. Number 1, analysis is really fun. I had a good time, characters were well established at least to me, and jokes were funny, I like the pacing. Number 2 though, the fight is phenomenal. Take everything I love about Ryu vs. Strider, the fast pacing and brilliant flow with a fantastic use of the character's assholes, taking on board basically everything mentioned that wouldn't easily end the fight like a sheep transportation gun, and working it in without either character totally dominating the fight. I said that really quickly, you might want to, I didn't realize how quickly I'd say that, you might have to go back and re-listen to understand what but then adding in more things than that, like fun dialogue and banter with good voice acting, aside from Daxter, who sounds obnoxious as hell, which to be fair might be intentional for little shit. The whole fight is just a roller coaster of weaponry. Ratchet pulls out so many guns from literally nowhere, and Jax fight them all off with eco, his own gun's versatile output, and by standing there and letting Daxter nearly get himself killed. And the start of the fight feels natural. They bring up that Jak is a sort of rash character, so him jumping to conclusions, and Daxter being an asshole as well, works with Ratchet trying to be helpful, but Clank unintentionally saying something that offends Daxter. It starts with a melee fight where Jak gets the advantage and uses Daxter to attack, but Clank gets Daxter off Ratchet. Then the two pull out guns. Starting with melee and teamwork, then going to long-range fighting with a really good gunfight? Yes, please! We get a cool tracking shot with Jak's hoverboard leading into the vacuum cleaner gun, which is a really well-flowing and natural scene, and works in the sucking up small enemies to refire his projectile things naturally into the battle. It makes perfect sense that Jak would use his hoverboard against all this gunfire, and it would also make perfect sense for Ratchet to use something that could stop the hoverboard. It's so smart. Well, I wouldn't say so smart, it is pretty obvious to do it in this way, but it's smart. Then there's a funny interaction that also makes Jak seem like an ass for not helping Daxter. Jak uses eco powers to block and speed up, leading to his gravity shot and supernova as a combo that is really cool. Clank has to fly up to help Ratchet, bringing us the iconic Jak fires a minigun as Ratchet fires a gun that shoots guns scene. Jak brings up Ratchet's absurd arsenal, which is kinda fun, and Ratchet is uber confident in shit until Jak turns Dark Jak and Ratchet shits his pants. Daxter then comes in, hitting Ratchet with his own missile, and I don't like this ending bit. While the fight choreography itself is fine, the fact that there's no sound effects, even if you say it was an intentional choice, just makes it way too funny. And I don't think that was intentional in this regard. Any of the bits that should be cool don't come off as cool. Hearing the characters just grunting and music playing with no sound effects has similar energy to that one Mummy trailer. It's the funniest shit. At the very least, Light Jack's appearance is really cool. He freezes time, working in Clank's resistance and allowing him to unfreeze Ratchet, ending the fight with an Ice Blast and Shatter combo that only works due to the character's teamwork, which is cool. This is a fantastic episode, holy crap, and I wish it got talked about more. I mean, it's not perfect. There is one major problem I have with this fight. Daxter. Daxter really doesn't get to do anything, and it takes a lot away from what's meant to be a 2-on-2 fight. When one of the duos is just Jack doing all the work and Daxter doing two things in the fight, he didn't need to do a shitload, but come on. Maybe just going Dark Daxter would have been enough and have him fight beside Dark Jack until Clank kicks the Rhino at the two, knocking them both down. Maybe have Ratchet use another gun that launches Daxter into the path of the Rhino, so it's not too contrived that they both got hit, and I'd be happy. As it stands though, this is still an excellent episode. The animation is so clean and smooth, the choreography is good, the effects are good, the interactions are fun. I have a good time, it's just a very solid and good episode. 9 out of 10. It's genuinely probably on a verge of a 10 if it just ironed out that one major issue and that one bad scene. I got way too much positivity, let's go to something else.
It never fails. I get to the gold at the end of the rainbow and somebody tries to kill me.
That's right, Boomstick.
This is the first time I've actually watched this entire episode start to finish with no skipping since I became a die-hard fan of the Uncharted series. Let's see how I feel. Nathan is the GOAT, by the way. So the analysis is nothing special. Lara's is fine, Nathan's is fine. I want to like Nathan's more, and there is this feeling of, hey, I know that guy, whenever they say someone's name, or, hey, I remember that thing from that thing I liked, whenever I see something that I remember from that thing I like. But for the most part, it's surprisingly stale. It feels like there are no jokes in the whole analysis. I'm sure there are some, but I don't remember anything. I don't remember any actual jokes that happened beyond Boomstick making the occasional quip. That wasn't funny. I'd even take an agonizingly bad cutaway gag right now, because at least that'd have something memorable in it. The fight, however, this is disappointing. I want to let you know that I'm not joking you when I say this matchup could have easily been the next Soul Snake vs. Sam Fisher. Telling a story of two combatants who are relatively grounded in how they're usually portrayed, battling to acquire a common goal, but whereas one has a stealthy vibe, the other one has a more fun, adventurous vibe with characters more open to fun banter. It's also open to phenomenal character animation, with Nathan's more brutish street brawler fighting style bouncing off Lara's more refined martial arts. This was not the next Soul Snake vs. Sam Fisher. I think I really need to go through all this to really dissect how broken I find this animation. From the start, the setup is really good. Lara is taking things carefully and seriously, getting a good look at what she's sneaking up on before actually approaching it. On the other hand, the haphazard and clumsy Nathan just sort of waltzes up and happens upon the Holy Grail. As you do. You notice every few shots will have situations where Nathan in particular doesn't look fully rendered. That's just a thing you'll have to deal with. Lara has Nathan at gunpoint and then just lets him slowly reach behind his back and pull out his machine gun. Why? This is the only time I've ever actually felt that the Season 6 reasoning for not having the fight anymore has actually come into play and made an episode actively worse. You know, the logic of they have to force a bit to include it. Never did I find that contrived, except for this episode where it definitely feels like it did. The opening gunfight is fine as a baseline start. Both take cover, but then Nathan comes out and instead of firing like he does in the game where he holds his gun in a weird way to be able to shoot from behind cover without fully exposing himself, he just jumps out. I'm not gonna say that it's like necessarily a bad thing, but like as a fan of Uncharted, I think it would have been cool if he like awkwardly moved his arm around to shoot. It just would have been more Nathan Drake to me. Weird bobblehead Nathan as he says his quirky line though is, This part of the fight is good. Lara comes in, does some martial arts stuff while Nathan just has this unrefined swagger as he dodges and slams her. Even his dodge roll is notably more clumsy than Lara, and that's a touch in this animation that I mentioned earlier that they actually do have, the dynamic of how they fight. And Nathan running away while shooting his gun blindly behind him is absolutely something he'd do. Then what's clearly one of Lara's gunshots hits the Grail. Remember, it flies this way, meaning it had to be one of Lara's guns. Nathan jumps out and catches an untextured Holy Grail while the pillar holding it has now gone back to being folded up. Lara then blames Nathan as if him catching it is somehow a bad thing when she's the one that did the actually potentially bad thing of shooting it off the pillar. I do like that Lara actually recognized that it could be a bad thing, going back to the thing I mentioned earlier where she's more careful, you know, like she's actually studied it while Nathan really hasn't. Then the pillar closes up, a random thing falls, which doesn't feel at all related to this, then random things start exploding, which, that sure is an Uncharted moment. We get what's arguably one of the better parts of this animation though, as Nathan and Lara both go for a long jump, but we get to see Nathan's superior jumping abilities as he clears the gap, but Lara doesn't. She does save herself with a pick though. Nathan gets to the one Jeep, the one vehicle we see that's there, and drives off. And he's gotten quite a distance away. Somehow, Lara climbed this massive distance here with only a single climbing pick, and they got onto a motorcycle that was always there, and caught up to him. How? Did we just miss a full 20 minutes of Lara climbing as Nathan drove off? Because that doesn't make much sense unless the building was crumbling in slow motion for those minutes. Lara clocks Nathan with her bow when she should have just shot him from behind. The still untextured Grail gets reclaimed as the two fight in a Jeep, which is a fine sequence I guess. But then Lara pulls out her bow to shoot and says something, then looks up at nothing in particular and jumps off in fear, making that whole sequence seem pointless and also stupid. Like she's looking up, but then in this shot, what is up that she needs to worry about? She's looking above the thing they're about to crash into. Then she jumps away and Nathan crashes. Then, despite the fact that the Grail was clearly attached to her back in this scene, now Nathan is in a helicopter that we didn't know was there because it wasn't present before, and he now has the Grail? How the fuck did that happen? Did he use the Force to pull it off her back before he crashed? How? I don't care. There are gonna be people saying, oh, why are you trying to make logic in a death battle animation? It's like, if any random bullshit can happen, then why should I give a shit about anything that happens in the animation? Things need to have a logical flow. That's what makes good animations, good fight sequences, even if it's an unofficial crossover. Lara then throws her pick and hits the helicopter, which I don't see why people find this so dumb. They literally bring it up in the analysis as something she's done in the past. It's not even a small thing that I could accept people might have missed, like it's just in the sidebar. There's a big section dedicated to explaining what she did here. People... I think the reason people complain about this is because they didn't watch the analysis and then complained. No, the actually stupid thing is that the helicopter doesn't necessarily explode, it shatters like glass. That's not like a big criticism, that's just funny to me. Nathan lands and then gets stabbed by the falling rotor blade, which is funny, and I guess it's an okay death. I know that that's probably the thing that this is why it had so many unwarranted dislikes back when dislikes existed, but god. What a bad animation. Like, man, this whole fight feels really unrendered at points, it's disappointing, it's full of just absolute stupidity. But I don't think those dislikes are warranted at all. It's not like it's lacking in good moments. The bit where they actually fight are nice, the jumping scene is a good way of integrating research into the animation, character animation when they clash is usually fine. There is a lot of good here. There's just also a lot of bad. I don't know if I can fairly blame them for the unrendered parts, as that screams of time constraints, much like fellow Season 4 3D episode Thor vs Wonder Woman. It just manages to be an unsatisfying mess that doesn't hit any of the high points I'd expect, and hits some low points that I wouldn't expect. It's sad, but it's a 4 out of 10. I would love for Nathan to come back, but he really doesn't have any matches, because Indiana Jones would probably go to Lara, even if I think Nathan would probably fit in better. Still, those dislikes are crazy. This is not even close to one of the worst episodes.
Michelangelo is the youngest of the turtles.
He actually shows many symptoms of autism.
You know, all things considered, I was actually quite interested in rewatching this one. It's one that I've always been sort of vaguely interested in checking out again, because I don't remember it well. Let's see how it went. Holy shit, Skylanders! Yes. My apologies. So yeah, Spyro's analysis was a lot of fun. I like Boomstick fanboy theory crafting and name-dropping Skylines at the start. I like the argument over ether and convexity breath. The lamp shading of things was a lot of fun. I had a great time with Spyro's analysis. Crash's was a bit more dry and uninteresting. Not even going to make a detailed comment on the autism line beyond maybe don't get non-psychologists to diagnose a fictional character who's explicitly described as stupid and dim-witted in-game with a mental disability without explicitly making clear you're doing it under the label of a theory. I know some people with autism that are fine with it, and I've known some people with autism that don't like the line. I'm not here to say whether you should dislike it or not, I'm just saying, people on both sides there. I don't have autism, I should not be commenting. The animation then is what I was most interested in, and from the start, it looks great. It's colourful and bright, I love how these models look together. It starts with Crash mindlessly breaking apart some boxes that are here for no reason, which feels like a very Crash thing. Then he kills Sparks, and the pause from Spyro is the funniest thing ever to me. Like, just, I fucking love it. It always cracks me up. I can't help it. I'm sorry. And they fight. The opening fighting bit looks a little weird and awkward, but you've got a bipedal marsupial and a quadrupedal reptile. What really would I expect from that? Crash does a spinning time, which sounds bad, looks really fucking stupid, and is so funny. I love it. And then Crash does his little dance. Yes! Then Spyro starts fighting back, and the animation gradually becomes way more Spyro-focused and less balanced. It's not too bad, but it's something I did notice. Aku Aku facepalms himself with Spyro's flamethrower as Crash jumps in to lay Spyro out, but Spyro ain't having that shit. The fight looks oddly circular and flat here though, and I don't know why. Then Crash just happens upon his mech suit, which honestly, I find it hilarious that it's just lying there here, so this one single time I will not question it. You're gonna call me a hypocrite? In this case, you're right. I like Spyro's initial reaction to Crash shooting a fruit at him, and the following battle is pretty fun as they gun at each other. Spyro frees the ground underneath Crash and turns into Goron Link, which you really feel the speed too when he charges, and that's good. Crash gets his helicopter pack and does Ken Master's fucking move, which is a really strange reference to make here. Then the fight kinda goes downhill as for no reason whatsoever, Spyro is just Dark Spyro now. No impact, no reason to do this, it feels so around nowhere. He blasts through Crash and destroys his copter pack and Crash falls. Then they had the character that they said had autism but was a savant in combat, doing perhaps the stupidest thing I've ever seen a character do in Death Battle. And like, I would be okay with this if Crash was just being portrayed as stupid because that's how the games portray him, but with the added context of the analysis, I can see how this could rub some people the wrong way. Like, sure, he was confident Aku Aku would protect him, but the way he sort of just does nothing as Spyro kills him, it just... fuck, he seems so fucking stupid. And yeah, he just dies here, and... I don't know, any defense I've seen for this moment has just not convinced me. Even if he was confident he would survive the fall or Aku Aku would protect him, he should have done anything whatsoever instead of lying down like a fucking Michelangelo. Then we're left on the kind of depressing note of Spyro being Dark Spyro now, and Sparks being dead with nobody around to help him return to being regular Spyro. Oof. So that was interesting. I obviously found a lot of it fun, but it also ended up feeling very short. It's by no means bad, but it isn't pushing itself to be really great like I know it can be. I'm giving this episode a 6, which by the way, is not a bad score. I feel obligated to say it for this one. A 6 means I like the episode. And I really need to clarify that. I don't need people thinking they're parroting my opinion by going on servers and saying, no, I never liked the episode, it's only a 6 out of 10. Because, nah mate, a 6 out of 10 doesn't mean I don't like it. It has a lot of good. But the fact that Crash's analysis wasn't too hot and I really found the ending disappointing is what brings it down to me. Maybe if it hit some higher highs, I'd have a changed opinion, but as it is, I want this episode to be better, I really do. I don't know, maybe in 2035 when the next re-release of the original trilogies come out, we'll get a remake.
Wanna bet? I've covered wars, you know.
That's nice, but I fought them.
The winner is Leon Kennedy.
Well, this episode exists. Do I like it though? Well, the analysis was fun. I really enjoyed Boomstick taking the lead on Leon's for a bit. That was fun and interesting. I liked a lot of the jokes. Though I do wish Wiz's tirade on camera qualities ended with Boomstick just saying, "What the fuck does that have to do with anything?" Instead of making me feel like they're babying me on how camera flashes suck when most people don't even like getting face-first phone camera flashes. Also, why bring up Stephen Hawking's death so soon after it happened? Come on guys, that's just not cool. Stephen Hawking died a peaceful death surrounded by the science he loved. A beyond inspirational figure that despite his condition, kept going with what he loved the most and never let it hold him back. And then in comes this series like, lol, he wouldn't have died if he had this war chair. Which like, come on. It's unnecessary, it isn't funny, it just gives me bad vibes. The fight, however, is pretty good. I can't comment on characterization for Frank, so I won't, but the fight itself is well done. Starting with Frank's regular weaponry and then going into his wacky combo weapons and then his mech suit. We start with Frank even weaponizing his trolley, then Leon slices his baseball bat in half, but that's not stopping Frank as he weaponizes the leftover stump and adds a comedic moment with his camera flash. The zombies then come in, and this part is a bit slow. Like the part where they knock over the fence and walk up is just, it's a bit slow for me, but when the fight with them actually gets going, it's pretty cool. With Frank and Leon not just fighting each other, but the zombies at the same time. Then we get one of the greatest usages of a character's catchphrase in the series. Frank dropping his war covering line as opposed, but then Leon turning it right back at him. But then Frank just uses a non-canon Mega Man thing, he fires one shot, explodes, we get a cool entrance with the exosuit who throws a tornado at Leon, we get a pretty cool, no pun intended, Leon escaping the tornado bit, and then it ends with just an explosion. Lame. Such a good animation until the end where it shits the bed. I don't know, the episode's good, 7 out of 10, but I don't think it's one that's super crazy awesome. The ending is just slow, boring, and beyond lame when you have so many creative weapons in a zombie environment at your advantage. Like, I get explosion deaths work, but this one doesn't have any impact, it's just lame, and I feel like this is one where you could have done better. Okay, it's time for the big one. Let's go and review Biff Weed's favorite episode. I'm recording this before the time of his Popeye, please don't make that your favorite Biff, otherwise it's going to feel really awkward. Solid Snake vs Sam Fisher. Starting with the analysis, Snakes is pretty good, and that's all I have to say beyond it's also funny. Sam, meanwhile, as Wiz and Boomstick laughing together, the idea of character staying retired, and I actually like the jokes in Sam's overall more, despite the fact that I've actually got a connection with Snake, unlike Sam. So the fight starts, and oh come on, 2018? Seriously, Solid Snake was given 1 year to live after 2015, he should be dead. 3 out of 10. Anyway, the start of this fight perfectly sets up the primary dynamic of the animation. While Snake and Sam don't have much in the way of banter with one another, as you'd expect, we're openly shown that the banter will very clearly be taking place between Snake and Otacon, and Sam and Grim, which not only works better in terms of accurate characterization, but also is more interesting as we get to see the primary dynamics that we were told about in the analysis in action. We also get, oh what is that mate? That is not what typing looks like? Ugh. 2 out of 10. Anyway, this opening scene also has to brilliantly set up one of the most unique and well done aspects of this fight that I brought up as something that should have been done with Nathaniel Bloodclot versus Lara Cucumber. The combatants here not only have a goal and motivation that despite us not being told about is fine as just nebulous information, and the reason they fight makes sense while also giving the two an interesting element of not having the death of their opponent as their primary objective, but merely a secondary one that allows them to get to their primary objective. Killing each other is just a step to what they actually want to achieve. We get the first of many brilliant shots in the fight as you see both Snake and Sam prepare to jump each other, the glow of their stealth gear flaring as the screen is split between the two with the door frame. Not only does this allow us to get a fight in the animation without it feeling weird, the two not immediately attacking one another both fits the characters, but more importantly the situation. They then jump out and we get a nice little split of comedy as they reference Metal Gear's infamous alert thing, a nice touch, but after realizing stealth won't work, both immediately jump to just combat. But there's also an element of character animation here that you'd probably miss. Sam is shown in the analysis as a character who's more prone to using his firearms, while Snake is portrayed as a superior hand-to-hand combatant of the two. As such, this bit here is literally Sam jumping out to shoot at Snake, but being stopped by Snake's physical ability, leading to what is a really well-animated fight scenes between them, thankfully not quick-cut bullshit. If you're wondering where that's coming from, I've watched a lot of movies recently that's just quick-cut bullshit, but a single long tracking shot showing them fighting. Snake immediately looks at the computer when he has time, and this gives Sam the knowledge that Snake is after the data that he's also after, so he shoots the computer too. I don't care if you think I should be calling it data, fuck off. Then, oh come on, he shoots and damages the monitor, but the computer itself is undamaged. You could add a little bit of a hole in it. Ugh, 1 out of 10. The next bit of combat combines martial arts with gunplay, and that's cool. Then the most Torian thing Torian is of a Torian happens while Snake flips around to avoid Sam's machine gun fire. There are no clever observations to make, it just looks cool. Sam then jumps out and sees a cardboard box, setting up the next scene. Once again we get another bit of dialogue between the partners, and it continues a string of strong characterization and feeling natural in the context. Sam talks to Grim about what he just saw and ignores her suggestion to leave while he can deal with Snake now. Snake meanwhile gets into a comedic little argument with Otacon about the usefulness of cardboard boxes, while also name-dropping familiar gruesome series, which helps make this feel like a genuine crossover. Sam follows the footprints to find the box on a shitter, shoots it, and oh no, it's empty! Snake then sneaks up on Sam, and I like how they set up the idea early in the episode with the analysis that Sam is so stealthy that his own footprints are undetectable by his gear, as it makes the misdirection from Snake seem believable as to how Sam couldn't spot his footprints beyond the ones he intended to leave. How could he not see the footprints of him leaving to make the sneak up obvious? Because Snake is also a masterful stealth operative, meaning that this establishes he's basically Sam's equal there, and is arguably necessary to have. This fight starts with Sam being so good he basically got in and killed everyone there and gotten the information. It starts with Sam basically having already won a massive battle without taking any damage. Snake, however, doesn't get too many moments to show his stealth as he arrives late. This though establishes that Snake is about on equal footing with Sam, avoiding the issue of making Snake seem like the lesser in stealth, and other stuff that happens later also helps with that. We get a pretty well done fight sequence here with a really good looking mirror effect for the mirror. I especially like the bit where Sam just runs up the wall, that's cool. Snake takes the intel, now he has the advantage, though Sam catches him with some bullets. Oh, what the fuck is that paintball gun injury? Oh god, his eyes too. Ugh, 0 out of 10. Anyway, Sam uses EMP and hits Snake. Not only does this sequence utilize the Chekhov's gun with Sam's shot camera here, which, is what Grim's looking through, which itself doesn't feel contrived as he shoots a camera earlier that doesn't end up being relevant, meaning Sam didn't just happen to shoot the one character he needed, but rather he shot multiple in case they were needed, and it feels more natural because one of them was, while the other one really wasn't. And this scene also helps to show something they explain in the conclusion. While Snake's stealth gear is vulnerable to EMP, his solid iron nanomachines that continue to be used are not, so Sam's EMP ends up only being somewhat useful. Snake's nanomachines are used here, where he's injured but later isn't because they fix him up, and his solid eye is used later in the dark. Sam leaves the situation to go back to his stealth route, something that's probably a good idea, as that's his forte, and he just turned the tide to his favour by getting rid of Snake's main stealth equipment. We then get the absolutely brilliant finale, and I make no exaggeration when I say this may just be the best ending to a death battle animation that has ever happened. Grim gives Snake the location of Sam, with Sam even addressing that this seems too convenient, but then we get Otacon's role. Now, I've not mentioned Otacon much, because throughout the fight, he hadn't actually been helping at all, making it seem like we'd have a Daxter and Clank problem, where one is instrumental, but the other is pretty irrelevant. This part makes it so that the why for that is understandable. The entire fight, Otacon had been working to hack into Sam's communications, cracking Grim's plane and causing it to explode on her and taking her out. And Sam's immediate concern for her safety also helps to show the two are a team, despite the animosity they show throughout the animation and interactions. It makes it come off less like Ryuka being a cunt to Senketsu, and more like two friends who've been together so long that they know they're free to have a crack at each other with no real repercussions to their bond. Otacon presumably then shuts off all the lights and we get the single coolest shot of the entire fight. Sam and Snake in the darkness, illuminated by nothing but Sam's goggles and Snake's cigarette, as Snake drops the "you're pretty good" line, a fantastic use of a classic phrase that goes to show Snake has that respect for Sam as a fighter, operative, and opponent. There's a genuinely cinematic moment of the two fighting in intervals, the scene lit with nothing but the muzzle flashes of their guns as Otacon says his iconic line, until Sam fires his machine gun and takes out a covered window to light the area. Snake immediately disarms him and we get to the fantastic final showdown. After all the stealth, tactics, gadgets and weapons they've used, in the end the battle has come down to this final moment, a simple knife fight. The most basic equipment they have, a battle of nothing but raw skill and experience accompanied by divine identity, a track so perfect for this segment you wouldn't even believe it's from the Shin Megami Tensei series. It just feels that perfect for the two franchises and the situation. The knife fight is beautifully paced, fast, fluid, and with great choreography. Sam gets the initial advantage by slicing Snake across the chest, himself now fully shown with an injury received from the previous suplex Snake had dropped on him. Now the two injured soldiers make their last clash. Both injured, Sam has reclaimed the data he started with, and the two know the only way for either to make it out with the data is for them to make it out at all. All it takes is one opening for the other to win in a simple, swift, and easy move. And in the end, Sam is the one to give the opening. A simple case of Sam's arm being left open to Snake grabbing it, allowing Snake to stab and electrocute Sam, kicking his own knife out of his hand and killing him with it, catching the data he came for, and leaving with a cigarette. No, I didn't fail to notice Snake's chest straps not being cut, I failed to care. This sequence is beautiful. It's what I want more from Death Battle. Honestly, I can say that for the whole episode. The one thing that makes this episode truly special is how it tells such a natural story. This doesn't feel like just one step into the other's world or a grand cosmic fluke that made the most important fight ever happen. No, this feels like a genuine crossover between these two franchises, except for the fact that one of them dies. Like what would genuinely be the inevitable end result of these two series existing in the same continuity. There's no grand events or big deal made of this in-universe. Every character treats this as nothing more than just another mission. Sam and Snake don't once act like they really see this as any more than just what they do every day until the very end, because it isn't. It's only once Sam has really injured Snake in taking out his tech, and Otacon has brought Grimm down, that the two realize this is a battle that they may not walk away from. Reality sets in, and that's when they know this is a situation and an opponent worthy of their best. Lines like Otacon saying they don't know anybody who operates as far out as they've gotten here help to give a reason as to how these two have never encountered each other before in this world, and Grimm's suggestion to just leave helps make this battle feel like an occurrence that could happen to Sam at any point. The battle is so well written in that regard, with each line of dialogue serving a purpose of either demonstrating character, achieving the funny, or helping to world build a world that we'll only ever see for a total of roughly 6 or 7 minutes. The details that are technically unnecessary are what can elevate episodes, make what could just be a fun battle between two characters who never interact in canon into a true experience, a work of passion, of love and effort that turns a fight into a story. That separates the episodes done because they think it could be neat to an episode done because they love the matchup, characters, or animation potential. Everything is done perfectly, from the writing to the general lack of badly aged animation outside of such minor moments, to the choreography, flow, and pacing. I can even give credit to the set design, Easter eggs, and voice acting. So let's do that. The set is simple but so effective. While a lot of episodes have what can be best described as just character A gets knocked into another part of the area by character B, or even to a wholly different area, this one feels so much more intimate and natural. Sam and Snake don't jump between different areas, they gradually move to different locations within a single building. The initial room, the hallways, the bathroom area, the Amogus vent, the final room they battle in. This is something that seems so minor, but really helps to contribute to make it feel like a theatrical film or game between them would feel like. These are games where you would go through multiple rooms in a single building to achieve your goal. In a movie, your characters would be naturally moving from point A to point B within a single set, and it plays out so perfectly. The Easter eggs, that's mostly just chucking a cigar to being fun again, all the stuff in Grimm's plane, that's cool. And finally, the voice acting. Everyone here brings their A game. Whitney Rogers does a great job at sounding not just like a hard-ass military woman for Grimm, but also has that perfect air of familiarity with Sam that gives her chiding that vibe of being to someone she knows she can trust and trust to get the job done. Ben Reynolds plays Sam Fisher fantastically, sounding perfectly casual in most of the battle, calm and cool-headed, like he knows he's already won, ironically. Christopher Sabat gives a performance you'd expect from someone of his caliber. He plays the cool Snake fantastically, with an amazing impression of David Hayter that sells every line as being from Solid Snake. And given the iconicity of the voice he has to do, that deserves tons of appreciation, especially when he can deliver genuinely comedic lines at the same time without it feeling weird. And finally, Brad Venables' Otacon. Brad was one of the best voice actors Death Battle had ever hired. Otacon's line reads are absolutely fucking flawless. Every line sounds perfect. Whenever he has to sound quizzical or like he's thinking, he sells it, all without us ever seeing him properly or fight. He draws out some of his words just long enough to make it really seem like he's not saying scripted dialogue, but he's genuinely thinking on the fly about what he's saying. It feels beyond natural, with pauses and extension of syllables that I wish I could pull off. And his final lines to Grimm, accompanied by the presentation, context, and situation as he flashes on screen, managed to make Otacon seem terrifying. A wimpy loser that you or I could kick the shit out of has managed to come off as a genuinely scary threat, despite his generally chippy nature and the fact that he's not even saying anything that's actually scary here. This episode is a masterpiece, plain and simple. I wish episodes like this happened more often. Episodes that drip with that passion and love. Episodes that feel like they aren't just a battle of movesets, but genuine crossovers, where characters have fully fleshed personalities and motivations. Episodes where every single element comes together to make them the best they can be. Episodes that make me care about characters I don't already care about. Episodes that I can give a 10 out of 10, in spite of any flaws they have. I love this episode, and this is truly an example of how critical analysis isn't always a bad thing. A lot of people seem to think there's something inherently wrong with me pointing out all these negative things in an episode as if I'm looking for negatives. But honestly, I'm just looking for what makes me feel the way that I feel. An episode's impression on me is key, and when I like an episode, I want to look for what made me like it, even if I'm also finding things I don't like. And when I don't like an episode, I look for what made me didn't like it, as well as any positives that I could have missed. I don't look for one or the other, I look for anything that can affect my feeling on it. Just watching this episode on its own, it's amazing, no doubt about it. But it's when I look deeper, when I really analyze what I was watching and what I was seeing, when I saw all the minor touches the creators added, and the little things that came together to craft a work of brilliance. That is when I can find an episode I love even more than I already did. And that is why, in my opinion, Solid Snake vs. Sam Fisher is one of the best episodes that Death Battle has ever done. And that is probably the coldest take I have ever had on this channel. Bonus! And now you're probably wondering where all this extra time in this extra long video is. Well, there are 3 episodes left that I don't really have a place anywhere else. These aren't necessarily one-offs in the sense that both series were used just once, but more in the sense that there's one series that's been used only once, and the other one I've already reviewed the only other episode for, those being for Master of the Universe, Devil May Cry, and Overwatch. So by technicality, these are what's left. So I'm going to look at a bonus look at 3 other episodes. Strap yourselves in, because I feel like this is going to be a long ass video that's going to be a bitch to render, especially in Australian heat, in the summer. Kill me!
Remember, kids, it is very important to always get your pets spayed and neutered. Otherwise, it may lead to unstable behavior and unauthorized breeding.
I miss my balls.
He-Man vs. Lion-O is one of my favorite premieres in all of Death Battle, and it's because of everything. He-Man's analysis is probably one of my favorite analysis segments in Death Battle. I just love seeing them go over his absolutely ludicrous cartoon, reacting to how silly it is, and it ends on one of my favorite notes any analysis has, with just Boomstick breaking script to have a fucking aneurysm over one of He-Man's honestly lesser weirdness bits. And thankfully Wiz said enough for us to understand what he was going to bring up without it feeling weird that it got cut off. And despite how they focus on just a silly cartoon and they bring up stupid things, they don't avoid bringing up the stuff that they think is really cool, and they do give him respect. Lion-O's I don't quite enjoy as much, but I still really like it. It makes me happy, it gives a smile to me, I find it funny, it's good. The animation, meanwhile, is just fun incarnate. I love the setup. Having the two both saying their catchphrase to power up is great. I mean, you kind of need it, right. And having Battle Cat there, both to not exclude him for no reason and also give Lion-O a natural way to use his command over all cats is great. And He-Man's solution to his best friend being compromised is perfect for setting up the tone of this fight. He just punches him into the sky and it takes a link of the fight for him to land. Brilliant. The entire battle is some of the most fun shit Death Battle I've ever produced. Starting with just simple things like lasers and a rock throw, we get a genuinely really intense and well done sword fight wherein Lion-O gets disarmed, something they make note of happening a lot in his analysis. Lion-O then busts out his smoke, and I like how He-Man and Lion-O just ooze that 80s cartoon charm. They don't just do stuff, they feel the need to announce it, like they're in a children's show. I love that so much, as well as He-Man's solution to gas that makes him cough, involving him having to take a deep breath to blow it away. That feels like a He-Man moment. Then He-Man just gets this raw as hell moment of shattering a tree to dust with a punch as his theme plays. You're gonna hear the word raw quite a bit for this section. We get a really fast bit of He-Man blocking attacks, then getting disarmed himself when he throws his sword. Lion-O then wraps him up and He-Man breaks out. But then He-Man, okay, his solution to not having his sword is to spinning time so hard he creates a tornado. We get an unfortunately janking looking Lion-O charge that slices He-Man, and then he sends him flying. But then he also says, "Where'd you go?" as if he didn't just send him flying. What? That's a writing blunder that I don't think plays into the 80s cartoon vibe as much as just detract from the episode. But I don't care, because what happens next is one of my favorite scenes in Death Battle. Lion-O takes a moment to use his sight beyond sight to see where He-Man has ended up, but all he sees is a mountain, and that just confuses him. Until he notices the mountain slowly moving. His reaction is amazing, the build was phenomenal, and when the mountain goes up with some stunning sound design and fucking amazing shot composition and framing to really get across the size of the fucking thing, that's peak Death Battle right there. A showing of just raw power. But hey, Lion-O isn't completely out of the game here. He gets his own showing of raw power when he fires a blast that completely detonates it, vaporizing the mountain completely and leaving nothing to even fall. But to not have that make the mountain foe seem completely meaningless, He-Man uses Lion-O's distraction as an opening to run in and lay him out, delivering 2 brutal punches and shattering his sword's shield. A weird sentence now to say it out loud. Lion-O grabs onto He-Man and announces it's the finale. So He-Man just punches the sword so hard it shatters into nothing. That's, well, fucking raw! Then with one final hit, Lion-O is incapacitated and He-Man walks away. Until we get what could have been one of the coolest deaths in the show. The Eye of Thundera unleashes its power with some great sound design and effects, and He-Man's reaction sells it completely. And him walking through that beam with all of his strength is just fucking, you know. He grabs it and he calls for all of his power and then just pops. Man, I wish it was a bit more climactic than that. The idea is so good and almost goes off flawlessly, but I don't like how it came out at the very end. I can even forgive the fact that He-Man's clearly just using his normal walk cycle, because it's season 2, you gotta expect some stuff like that. But I wish that the death was a bit more climactic. Then He-Man does a one-liner and Cringer lands. Okay, that's pretty funny. And the conclusion is fine. They completely fail to explain how He-Man can beat the Eye of Thundera though. Honestly, man, I love this episode. It's really not that deep, is it? It's just a fun 80s cartoon matchup with a ton of raw as hell moments, fun and fluid animation, and a ton of just fun shit happening. And some amazing voice acting from Edwin Tiong as He-Man, who has a voice that not only matches, but also pulls off the power behind He-Man, and Xander Mobius, whose Lion-O not only sounds good, but also pulls off the ferocity behind him, both managing to give some well done lines for both comedy and just being badass. And the fact that this came out prior to Season 4 and 5 switch to all custom tracks means we get to have the He-Man theme put in whenever He-Man does something awesome, which elevates everything he does to the next level because I love that theme and it makes for the perfect hype man. God, this episode oozes personality. Yeah, it's an easy 9 out of 10 for me. Sure, there are several things worth fixing, namely that kill, but those didn't do anything other than drop a 10 to a 9, and a 9 is still a damn good score. One of my favorite premieres ever. But not quite my favorite.
She's covered in hair, and she uses her feet like hands. She's a monkey! That's, kinda...
Dante vs Bayonetta was for a long time my favorite premiere to any season of Death Battle. But it recently got some competition. So I think it's finally time to go back to see if one of my favorite episodes featuring one of my favorite characters of all time still stands up. I quite like the analysis. It's not bursting with jokes I love or anything, but it's in the realm where I'm just excited to hear them talk about Dante and Bayonetta. And it tackles their characters decently enough. It doesn't feel like a ton was left out, notably because I think this was done at a time where I hadn't seen people talking about Dante's like character arc at the time, because like the whole like the way Dante's arc is written is so slapdash, but when you put all the games together in the timeline, it actually really works. At this point, he was just considered a jokester by most of the like everyone really. So I guess I can't blame him for not bringing it up. But holy shit, Boomstick said Beyblade again. What? Great analysis. And the fight, man. I still love this fight. It just puts a smile on me no matter how often I see it. Starting off, okay, yeah, parts of it have aged. Bayonetta's starting model is kind of weird, and the hair for both her and Jean look really bad sometimes, mostly with Jean. But man, I still like how this starts. Dante just walking up to find something pointless, then getting into a fight with someone for no reason beyond that person having exactly what demonic thing he happens to be after, is so perfectly Devil May Cry, man. And before we even get the fight, we have this really well animated gun kata battle, and we get more of it directly after the fight too. Dante counters a bullet in his teeth, which is something he'd do purely for style, despite the fact he could survive it going through his head. We then get Bayonetta wrapping her legs around in midair, and then continuing the gun kata fight, wrapped around each other and suspended in midair. That's awesome! Bayonetta then busts out her next weapon, and things start getting crazy, with Dante starting to use Rebellion and stingering Bayonetta, which is dodged in Witch Time. I like how Dante's first go at a pure melee move gets Witch Timed and met with a devastating combo that would kill anyone else Bayonetta could fight with an Iron Maiden. but Dante's fine. Dante then starts attacking with chairs? I mean, he's also firing beams from his sword, but they're much harder to see than he's throwing chairs at her. Dante responding to each time with Quicksilver now that he expects is a cool way to trade powers, with the two both dilating time for themselves, giving a cool grayscale effect on a frozen world with a purple vignette as the two are highlighted by the color of their respective time powers. Dante then actually clocks Bayonetta with a chair. Love it after another really good fight sequence. Dante says jackpot here, which on one hand he would absolutely say that in response to successfully hitting someone with a projectile chair. But I also feel like his catchphrase would be better served at the end given how he kills Bayonetta. We get another really well animated, choreographed and fluid fight between whip and sword now, adding in Bayonetta's foot swords with Dante doing his equivalent of showing respect to his opponent by getting really into the battle. Bayonetta summons final Smash Demon and Dante just letting himself get eaten solo so he can brute force his way out and kill it in one go is... that Dante would do that, man. Bayonetta then smashes Dante to the lower levels, and after a brief clash we get this great bit of the two just continuing to be playfully coy with one another. You know, despite the fact that Dante's pointing a gun at Bayonetta's face, which she knows she can easily dodge, and Bayonetta stabbing Dante through the chest, which he knows he'll be fine from. Now Trish appears out of nowhere with the assist like an episode of Raw. This is out of nowhere, which is a little bit bothersome, at least for Jean, because Bayonetta not super versed on it. I don't recall any moment where she... maybe it's the thing that happens, I don't know. At the same time though, it's fucking cool, I don't care. What helps this feel a little more natural to me is Trish appearing out of nowhere is something that absolutely would happen in Devil May Cry. And man, banter is on point. Bayonetta and Jean are really calm and offhand to one another, while Trish is actively hounding Dante's back about things, and he doesn't give a shit. The little pause to ask if they're even being paid for the job is great. And there's no word for this next bit, but perfect. It's the most perfect hack and slash spectacle fighter scene I could ever want. A 2-on-2 battle where they throw out tons of weapons and abilities in a super dynamic, not totally one-sided and everything flows so perfectly fight. This has better teamwork going on both sides than Ratchet and Clank vs Jak and Daxter. That just dawned on me in the middle of recording this. Fuck, this is one of my favorite fight sequences in the entire show. In all the verses, honestly. Dante even uses fucking, what was it called, Pandora, like the 626 weapons thing? Yes. The witches bust out the side of the building and now they're fighting on a full chunk of building, and one of my bigger issues with the fight shows up here, Bayonetta and Dante just aren't on the chunk when Jean and Trish fight, which is a bit distracting. Even in the face of a really well animated sequence and a funny ending line from Jean, they should be there. But the next bit is another of my favorites. Bayonetta attacks Dante while he's distracted worrying about Trish, and Dante just stops fucking around to go Devil Trigger. Bayonetta then responds with an Umbran climax, and seeing Dante just not fucking around going all in as he and Bayonetta match their attacks mano a mano while she goes ham with the Madama Butterfly punches is amazing. But then Madama Butterfly comes out herself, and while I know Bayonetta's line is a reference, I don't like it. It's probably just a delivery. But the actual clash is cool. Now, I'm not sure if they should have given Dante Yamato, but for the purposes of animation, this is just such a cool moment where he takes out Madama Butterfly with only a few hits and uses his brother's weapon in the final clash against Bayonetta's Shuraba, which I believe is a sister weapon to one of Jean's. And the two even go into their time powers midway through, with Dante being the one to instigate it first before Bayonetta joins in, all leading to the final stab. Dante is knocked out of Devil Trigger and stumbles back, the two having stabbed each other. But Bayonetta is visibly far more injured by it, and Dante used this opening to use Lucifer and fucking impale the hell out of Bayonetta before blowing her to bits. And really, this seems like the perfect time for a jackpot. Dante then crashes and walks off casually while still having Bayonetta's sword in him. Is it okay for him to not be worried about Trish right now? Not really, but what can you do? Man, I love this animation. It captures everything I love about these characters, especially Dante so well. Mostly Dante. And I guess if I had one major issue, while Stephen Fu and Marissa Lenti do a great job as Dante and Bayonetta respectively, some of their line reads don't do it for me. The "don't fuck with a witch" line and the Ava Vago shout, especially for Bayonetta. And for Dante, it's mostly just his "come on" when he starts throwing at chairs for the first time. It's not a huge problem or anything, but it is like the one major issue across the fight that isn't like small bits. But such a good episode. You guys probably like the rare instances where I score an episode higher than Biffweed. Here's one of them. This episode's a 10 out of 10 to me. It captures the characters and series so perfectly, with few major problems. I love it. This is still my favorite premiere, but it is close. It is quite close, but I do prefer it still. By a hair.
However, the rocket's point of impact is never directly shown.
I know what people want from me. They want me to hate this episode because ew, Tracer won, ew, Scout lost. Such a wrong episode. We don't see the point of impact. How awful. But no. How childish do you think I am? Don't answer that. I don't dislike this episode for reasons like that. I dislike it for completely different reasons. Starting with the analysis, Tracer's honestly is fine, if a bit bare bones, and very much showing how little they had to work with. Scout's meanwhile is just weird. It has plenty of fine stuff, but also stuff like emphasizing how tough he is, and then how he can tank missiles, only to then say he's a glass cannon, and the whole not seeing the point of impact shit comes later, which is weird, because on one hand, wow, he's tough enough to tank these, but also, no? And he's a glass cannon apparently? I don't get it. Man, the highlight of the analysis really is Scout's ending clip. This is funny, it almost makes me want to play Team Fortress 2, but it's just not my kind of game. I'm sure it's good though. The fight though is... how do I put this? So the first bit is decent, with Scout running. Enjoy it while it lasts. The starting interaction seems fitting for what I know and is full of character, and the fight starts, and Scout is not holding his scattergun. This looks like a stretched out and disproportionate force of nature, and he fires it more than 2 times. I don't play TF2, how the hell did I notice that? And sure, Tracer blinking around looks really dynamic and such, it's cool, and honestly, I think Tracer's blink looks really good throughout the fight. But then Scout continues firing when there's this massive wall of shit that Tracer is running on between them. Okay, Scout dodges, which is probably the most Scout-like he acts in the fight. From here on out, Scout spends the majority of the fight standing still or walking in a straight line slowly. The core entire premise of this matchup is run and gunners, and he doesn't really do that. I've seen Ben Singer's explanation in The Road to 100, and it's bullshit. He seems to be under the assumption that people wanted a long chase between the two, citing the location not having the space for extended running. This is not only wrong because Tracer literally does that, and there's an area change for when Tracer gets sent flying, but also Scout literally does the running here, a short distance to avoid fire. That's perfectly fitting. More of that would have been very welcome, but without it, the battle feels quite bare bones. And speaking of bare bones, Tracer gets all of her relatively limited kit as you'd expect, but Scout only really gets his pistol, a gun he's never used before, and bonk. Let's talk about bonk. The way they describe it, you drink it and you become invincible for 8 seconds. Now let's ignore the accuracy of that claim, and just look at internal consistency. Scout gets this pulse bomb slapped beneath him. It explodes, and only after it explodes do we hear the sound of the can cracking, and then after it's almost completely gone, we see him drinking it. How do you fuck it up that badly? The whole point is you drink it to do an effect. You can't have the effect happen before you drink it. I wouldn't even be too bothered if the pulse bomb didn't explode to kill him earlier, later in the fight. He dies from the pulse bomb? So, how long does Bonk last in this fight? Well, after the 8-second mark, they haven't even finished talking, and Scout hasn't even said the one half decent line in this episode. So, from when Scout finishes drinking it to when we last see him with Bonk active, 60 whole seconds pass. An entire minute. Good job. And while that minute did give us this scene that I see memed a lot, it also is primarily just Tracer shoots Scout, which builds up this meter that appears now despite not being there before. Then her thing shorts out because they said it could in the analysis and they needed working into the fight, and Scout gets his only hits on her in the fight, setting her flying. And after this, he walks up, points his gun, fires a bullet, and during the time it's in the air, Tracer says her funny cavalry line and recalls, undoing all of Scout's damage. Scout then gets the shit kicked out of him, goes to drink Bonk, cracks it open but very clearly doesn't, and then Tracer takes the can from him with a moderately funny line, puts a bomb in his back, and he dies. That sure was an animation that entirely misses the point of the matchup and features very little highlight moments. This is not a bad episode because Tracer won. This is not a bad episode because of the research, though that is certainly something I understand people not liking due to some of the things they say. This is a bad episode because it's a bad episode. 3 out of 10, fuck off. I hate that that's the note we're leaving this review on, but truthfully, I had a lot of fun with this. We got 2 episodes I consider a 9 out of 10, 2 episodes I consider a 10 out of 10, and only a few that I think were actively bad. This was a very fun set of episodes to look over. While there were some I wasn't too happy with, even a middling one like Croft vs Spyro, I had fun with that, especially Spyro's analysis, you know? Even a battle that ends disappointingly, like Leon vs Frank, man, I still had fun with that episode. This was fun to do. I wish Tracer vs Scout wasn't the point we had to end it on, so people are going to think this is a negative video because that's how I ended it. Anyway, this is long as hell. I should shut up and get to actually rendering this. Hope you guys enjoy the video. Have a good one, fellas. And happy holidays, because I haven't said that. But this is not going up on the holidays, but I might as well say it, because all I did was that Ruby thing, and no one watched that. Like 1,000 people watched that. So happy holidays. Late as it is in terms of this. See ya, guys.